All right, YouTube says we're live. So here we are, this week's Panther-Lair Show. It's a Tuesday night. Check our levels here, make sure everything's working as it should be. It's a Tuesday night, and I hope you can hear me. I guess I should try and confirm that our audio's working, but we had to move the podcast to Tuesday night after, or due to Pitt playing at Florida State tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 9 o'clock tip-off for that game. That's going to be a nice late one. Can't say I'm very excited for the game. Don't think anyone's really excited for these games anymore at this point. And obviously, we have a lot of basketball to talk about. But here we are on a Tuesday night for the Panther-Lair Show. Chris Peak, here to talk a little Pitt sports with you. For those who are so inclined, as we do every week here on the Panther-Lair Show, sort of an extension of Panther-Lair.com. You should know the site, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. It's the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet. Football, basketball, recruiting, kind of whatever's going on in the world of Pitt sports. We cover it at Panther-Lair.com. And we write about it all, the good, the bad, and sometimes there's a lot of good. Certainly in the last few months, there's been a lot of good, and then there's also a lot of bad. And certainly in the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of bad. But whether Pitt's doing bad or Pitt's doing good, you want to look good, right? Well, the best way to do that is with home field. I'm just going to shout them out right now. I got the Vintage Rock shirt on. You see that? It's homefieldapparel.com. It's a place you need to go to check it out. Look, you might be disappointed about Pitt basketball, but that doesn't mean you don't want a sweet Pitt basketball shirt, right? And you got to see the stuff that they have in their Pitt collection at home field. It's just awesome stuff. I mean, like this Vintage Rock look and a whole bunch of other shirts that are just really sweet. And because you don't stop being a Pitt fan, you might be a very disappointed Pitt fan, but you're not going to stop being a Pitt fan. So go check it out, homefieldapparel.com. Look around at all their stuff and definitely check out their Pitt collection. I'm sure you're going to find something that you like. And if it's your first time shopping there, if it's your first order, use the promo code LAIR, L-A-I-R, and you can get 15% off your first order. So you get some of the best products you're going to find, some of the best Pitt gear you're going to find, sweet logos, super soft shirts that hold their shape and hold their form. You know what I mean? They're great t-shirts, great sweatshirts with great logos on them. So Panther-Lair.com. Oh, wait, that's the website. You say all these, I run through these things all the time. Homefieldapparel.com is where to go to get the great gear. Panther-Lair.com is where to go to get the great Pitt info. You need to go to both websites, go buy some shirts, and then go read about Pitt sports. And of course, at Panther-Lair, we have message boards. You can talk with other Pitt fans, and that's a big part of the attraction, I think, to the site is the ability to interact with other Pitt fans and talk to other Pitt fans sort of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week about anything that's on your mind. Whatever you're thinking of about Pitt sports, you can go post about it, or others might be posting about it already. You can go check it out and join those conversations. And they literally do happen all day, every day. There are new posts. You'll check the boards before you go to bed. And when you wake up in the morning, there are new posts to read, new threads to check out, new comments to reply to or disagree with, or whatever it is. And as you can imagine, basketball is a pretty popular topic right now. Football recruiting has been really interesting. There's been a lot going on with football recruiting. They hired new football coaches, Taekwon Underwood, receivers coach from Rutgers, obviously Frank Signetti. Coming in as the offensive coordinator. I mean, they pretty much filled out the staff there. You would assume that the staff turnover is done for this year, and they're sort of moving on with just the two changes, changing an offensive coordinator and changing it wide receivers coaches. So that generated a lot of conversation. We talked a lot last week about the schedule. 2022 Pitt football schedule came out last Monday. We talked about it on last week's show. And so we've obviously a lot of conversation about that on the message boards. But I mean, most of the conversation right now is Pitt basketball related, because while apathy has become a pretty common sentiment, and that's a problem, that's a huge problem for Pitt, there's still enough interest in the program, there's still enough fandom in the program that anger is the dominant emotion, the dominant sentiment, and the dominant reaction to Pitt basketball. Because it's pretty friggin' low right now. And I ask the question, every Friday we have the 3-2-1 column on Panther-Lair.com, 3 observations, 2 questions, 1 prediction. And Jim Hammett and I go back and forth. We rotate, we alternate on who writes those. Jim is writing it this week. I wrote it last week. And one of the questions that I wrote in last week's column, and I tried to write about Pitt's football schedule as much as I could, but I figure I have to spend at least a little time writing about basketball. And one of the questions I asked was, what's the low point? What's the low point for Pitt basketball right now? Because, it just related to this season at least. There was following the win over Syracuse with, some ugly losses. The loss at Boston College was a bad loss. Getting beat like they did at Clemson was a bad loss. Hell, the season started with a loss to Citadel, right? The Citadel came into the Peterson Event Center and beat Pitt by 15 points. Ran them out of the gym. Ran them out of their own gym. Was that the low point? Maybe everything else. Maybe any low point that happens from here on out. This is what I wrote on Friday. I said maybe any low point that happens from here on out is just playing for second place behind the Citadel. That's what I thought was a possibility. I thought whatever happened would just be playing for second place behind the Citadel. But then they had Saturday's game where they hosted Virginia Tech and fell behind, 49-22 in the first half? And put up a real battle, put up a real valiant effort in the second half to make it a 5-point game at the finish. But it was such a disastrous performance in the first half. One of the worst performances we've ever seen from Pitt. And I was at that game when I think it was 15-7 at halftime. Way back, who was that? Jamie Dixon against New Hampshire or somebody like that. I've seen a lot of bad basketball performances by this program. But that first half against Virginia Tech was as bad as I have ever seen in a single half. Now, maybe there were some times in the Stallings era. It's funny, after the Wake Forest game, that was another low point. They gave up 91 points to Wake Forest. They lost 91-75, a week and a half ago. And I went back and looked, and I saw that Kevin Stallings had 2 games in his final season when he gave up 90 points. One of those was to Louisville. That game was at home. Not to be confused with the game at Louisville where he was heckling the fans. And I thought, that was a pretty big low point. But since then, in the Capel era, and particularly this season, as we talk about low points, 91-75, at Wake Forest. It really, following up that loss to the win over Syracuse, they bounced back from a terrible game at Clemson. They beat Syracuse, and then they're not really competitive at Boston College. They lose by 13 against a team that they already beat this season. They go to Wake Forest and give up 91 points. They come back home against Virginia Tech, and again, have maybe the worst half of basketball I've seen from this program in a long, long time. Maybe ever. I started covering this basketball program around 2004, 2005. I'm not sure I've seen a worse half than what we saw against Virginia Tech on Saturday in the first half. And again, there might have been something in the Stallings era. I don't know. Kind of like the Todd Graham year. I blocked it out. I've sort of forgotten what it was like that year and what happened that season. It was kind of like one of the other things I wrote about in the 3-2-1 column last week. I wrote about the backyard brawl in West Virginia, the football series coming back on September 1st at Heinz Field. And I wrote about how, what happened the last time Pitt and West Virginia played. What happened in the last backyard brawl back in 2011. And, I admitted that I didn't remember much about that game because I don't remember much about that season as a whole. And that's kind of the case with the 2 Kevin Stallings years. I don't have a lot of memories from those 2 years. And that's perfectly fine with me. I don't want to have many memories from those 2 years. But of the memories I have, that first half against Virginia Tech on Saturday was about as bad as it's ever been. About as bad as I've ever seen. And, in the second half, conversely, was one of the best halves I've ever seen Pitt play. They scored close to 50 points in that half. 49 points. They had their own 49-point half. Who knew this team was capable of it? Well, they're not capable of it. They're not good enough to score like that. And they'll never do that again this season. But I thought coming out of that, they get Virginia Tech again 2 days later. You get a chance for revenge 48 hours later because of this scheduling quirk. This game was, originally scheduled for New Year's Day, actually. The game at Virginia Tech got rescheduled due to COVID issues to February 7th. So Pitt plays 3 games in 5 days, right? And they play Virginia Tech twice in 3 days. So they have that weird game on Saturday where they play an awful first half and a great second half, and it's not enough, and they lose by 5. And then they go to Virginia Tech on Monday, last night, if you will. And I thought, and I wrote this in our staff predictions piece on Panther-Lair.com, and I'm not going to do anything this stupid again, but I thought there would be sort of a leveling out, that Virginia Tech would be better than they were in the second half on Saturday, but not as good as they were in the first half. And Pitt would be better than they were in the first half on Saturday, but not as good as they were in the second half. They would level out a little bit. I thought John Hughley would get going, and I thought that this would be more in line with how these two teams really match up with each other. And I was wrong. I was wrong about it leveling out. I was not wrong about it being more in line with how these two teams match up, because Virginia Tech was just clearly miles ahead of Pitt. And as bad as that game on Saturday was for the first half, it was kind of like that for the entire game on Monday. And here I am again saying, well, did we just find a new low point? And again, maybe everything's playing for second behind the Citadel loss, or maybe Monmouth if you want to throw that one in. But the Citadel game, the Monmouth game ended up being a 4-point game, but it wasn't that close throughout. They cut it. They made it closer. It was like a 10-point game for most of that one. But the Citadel game, they just got their behinds kicked, right? They, like I said, they got run out of their own gym. So maybe that's the low point of the season, and everything else, like I say, is playing for second place. Well, this Virginia Tech game on Monday put up a pretty strong fight for second place. You want to put it above Clemson, you want to put it above Wake Forest, you want to put it above Boston College, you can make a case for all those. They were pretty bad for at least a half against Syracuse. Second half, they were pretty bad in that game at Syracuse. But when you're talking about a low point, you got a new contender on Monday. And I think, coming around to what the point is here, is that they keep finding new low points. For whatever reason, whatever it's due to. And I think there are a lot of explanations, and I think there are a lot of reasons why they keep sinking lower and lower. But that's the reality, is that they do keep sinking lower and lower. And maybe they'll go down to Florida State tomorrow night and shock us all and win a game and break their losing streak. They're at 4 right now. And they'll break their losing streak, and, boom, they'll get a little momentum. When they get ready to host NC State next week. Next Saturday, I guess it is. Or this Saturday. But I can't rely on them to do that. I can't expect them to do that. I can't count on them to do that, and I can't predict them to do that. Not anymore. Maybe it took me 24 games and 13 ACC games to finally say I can't expect this team to win. But I just kept holding out little shreds of hope, even if it was based on something like Saturday's second half, where I said, look, this is what they can do. They're not going to score 49 and a half, but they can defend like they defended in the second half. You know what I mean? They can play that way on that end. And this ultimately is the thing that's most frustrating about this team to me. There's a lot of frustrating things. And I'm not going to let them off the hook for not being talented enough on offense. Because one, coaches built the roster. Some bad luck involved, but coaches built the roster. Two, I think you can still coach around bad offensive players, ineffective offensive players. You can coach, coaching them up is a stupid cliche, but you can design offenses. You can do something a little more structured and a little more organized to get yourself open shots. A little more structured and a little more organized than what they do right now. And I'm not a basketball X's and O's guy. I'm not. I can't sit here and tell you what they can do, but I know I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it with my own eyes that ineffective offensive offensive teams that struggle, find ways to organize their offense in such a way that they're able to get good shots and get efficient shots and get good shots to improve their efficiency. They take care of the basketball, and they set themselves up for good shots by running good sets. And I ask a question that I asked a couple weeks ago or a month or two ago. What are they trying to do on offense? What are the objectives? What are the goals? How many times do they go through a possession and they take their shot and it misses? I mean, just specifically speaking of yesterday's game, of Monday's game, how many times did they go through a possession, take a shot, it misses, Virginia Tech gets the defensive rebound? Oh, that's an easy one to answer because Virginia Tech got the defensive rebound every time Pitt missed the shot. Every single time. Pitt did not get an offensive rebound off any of its missed shots. So, back to my question. How many times do they bring the ball up, take 20 seconds off the clock or whatever it is, run the shot clock way down, take a shot, other team gets, Virginia Tech would get the defensive rebound, and as Virginia Tech's bringing the ball back up, you're sitting there saying, what were you even attempting to do on that possession? What was your goal even on that possession? That shot wasn't what you wanted. You can't convince me that you brought the ball up the court saying, all right, with about 3 seconds left to go, we're going to have you take this shot from, 2 feet inside the three-point line. That's not the objective. That's not the goal. And yet that's what ends up happening. That's what the offense produces. I'm way sidetracked because I didn't even want to talk about the offense yet. We'll talk about the offense, and I'm not letting them off the hook right here because, like I just said, I think there are things that can be done even with this collection of talent. But it's the other end that kills me. It's the other end that kills me. It's the defense. How can you be this bad defensively? How can you not understand that, man, this is your only chance to win basketball games? That if you suck at defense, you are really screwed. You really have no chance to win. How can you not understand that? And that's on the coaches for not making the point strongly enough and the players for not getting it. And I put equal blame on every single one of them. All 13 players, all 4 coaches. And whatever assistants and video guys and managers, whoever you want to put it on, they all take the blame. That you can't understand that this is what you need to do to win. Good teams, good offensive teams need to play good defense. Bad offensive teams better be friggin' amazing at defense, or else they're going to be 3-10 in conference games through 13. They're going to give up 91 to Wake Forest. They're going to get blown out by, 27 multiple times, right? Yeah, because Clemson was 75-48 and Virginia Tech was 74-47. Multiple 20-point losses in conference play because your defense stinks. Your defense isn't good enough. And even games, you don't even need to get into the 70s. The game against Virginia, the home game against Virginia, the defense wasn't good enough. It was easy. It was easy for Virginia to score. Virginia had experienced very little resistance, and they weren't even really jacking up threes like Virginia Tech did. Virginia Tech came into Saturday's game. You don't even have to take the stats from Saturday's game. Virginia Tech came into Saturday's game as the best three-point shooting team in the ACC, percentage-wise. The highest three-point shooting percentage in ACC games this season. And they still get open looks. It's befuddling. It's mind-numbing. And it's frustrating. And I'm sure Jeff Capel's experiencing a lot of that frustration too, because he knows they can't score to save their lives. So if they're going to have any kind of chance to win, they need to defend like crazy. They need to be incredibly difficult to play against. They need to be incredibly difficult to score against. And they need to be incredibly difficult to find any kind of easy looks or good looks against. And not only are they not incredibly difficult to find easy looks against, they actually seem to make it even easier. You watch this game on Monday, Virginia Tech, this Storm Murphy kid, what did he just do to you 48 hours earlier? He did this same exact thing 48 hours earlier, and you're still leaving him standing by himself. They're running screens. They're running picks. Have you never defended against a screen before? Have you never defended against a pick before? Apparently not, because Virginia Tech would run 2 or 3 on a possession, and all of a sudden, they got 3 guys wide open for threes. Might as well be playing 5-on-2 at that point. Basically were. Your only chance to win this season, your only chance at success, your only chance at making this season into something even approaching respectable was to defend. How much did we talk? We talked about it in the offseason. We talked about it before Nike Sabandi got hurt. We talked about it before Ethiel Hurton got arrested. We talked about it all offseason. And we talked about it through December. We talked about it through January. And we're talking about it now in February. And we're still talking about it because it still hasn't happened. And there have been flashes where this team has been strong defensively. They've had games where their defense has been really good. They've had games where they've made life difficult. Drag other teams down to the muck. All right? And you might be sick of hearing Jeff Capel say it. I love that philosophy. I think that's absolutely what they need to do. I think that's absolutely who they need to be. I said this back in like November, maybe October, that this needs to be the kind of team where they are really annoying to play against. You know, they're physical, they get physical with you, they bang you around, and they make it really tough for you to do anything. And yeah, does this all sound very familiar to basketball that we watched here 15 years ago? You're damn right it does. Because you know what that basketball did? That brand of basketball, it won a hell of a lot of games. It won a lot of games, and it made the NCAA tournament a lot of times. It made the Sweet 16 a bunch of times, and it wasn't good enough for anybody. But that brand of basketball won a whole lot. A whole lot. And it wasn't exciting enough. They didn't have a go-to guy, and they never got past the Sweet 16 except the time that they did. But it won a lot. And I'm not gonna. I mean, we're not gonna relitigate the. You know, Jamie Dixon getting pushed out at Pitt. We've all acknowledged, we probably knew it at the time, that was a stupid decision. And it's been, I mean, the stupidity of it has only been compounded over the last 6 years. But that's a way to play basketball if you're not a great offensive team. And this team is not a great offensive team. They're very, very far from being a great offensive team. But they can still defend. For whatever reason, they're not. They're not rebounding either. Now, I don't expect them to win the rebounding battle in either of these last two games against Virginia Tech because Virginia Tech shot like lights out, right? Oh, man, Pitt got crushed on the boards against Virginia Tech on Saturday. Well, they only got like 10 defensive rebounds because Virginia Tech, I think Virginia Tech in the first half of the game on Saturday missed 6 shots. You're not going to get a lot of rebounds if your opponent only misses 6 shots. But Pitt, who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn for the first half against Virginia Tech on Saturday and basically the entire game on Monday, didn't get any offensive rebounds. They had 2 offensive rebounds on Saturday. Team was credited with 1 offensive rebound on Monday. So while they missed, here, let's bring up let's find our handy dandy stat sheet here. Hold on. Let's get all the numbers. Where are we? There's Virginia Tech and Virginia Tech. So Pitt on Saturday missed only 19 shots. Wow, that's not bad. Yeah, they missed 19 on Saturday and 26 on Monday. So what's 19 plus 26? 45 shots. And the team as a whole, we'll even give them the one with the team offensive rebound from Monday. 45 missed field goals. 3 offensive rebounds. 45 missed field goals, 3 offensive rebounds. And we're not even bringing in free throws. Because who knows? Maybe some of the missed free throws was the front, the first shot. And so you're not going to have it, we could look up somewhere and find the offensive rebound percentage. But I don't really need much more than that. 45 missed shots, 3 offensive rebounds. Rebounding is effort and intelligence, effort and smarts, effort and IQ, effort and positioning, and effort, and effort, and effort. And I don't want to sit here and say, they dogged it or question effort. But you know what? Things like defense and rebounding, you got to play hard. You got to be committed to it. You got to believe in it, and you got to do it. You got to be willing to do it. They're not willing to do it. They're not willing to do it. And if you're not willing to do those things, then you're not willing to win. Or you're not going to win. It's funny, I saw a quote from Mike Krzyzewski. Who they play, Carolina on Monday night or something like that. And He said something about not being worthy of winning. And that's something Jeff Capel has said a bunch of times. Use that phrase of being worthy of winning. The apple is not falling far from the tree there, but it's, good coaches know what it takes to win. Coaches know what it takes to win. That's actually probably the way to say it. All coaches know what it takes to win. They know their guys have to play hard. They know their guys have to be, have effort and energy, have to be committed to it, have to really buy in and give everything they have. Great coaches can get their guys to do it. For whatever reason, Jeff Capel's team is not doing it. Saturday, he talked about he doesn't know. He doesn't know why they're not getting it. He doesn't know. He's not in their heads. He wishes he knows. He wishes he knew why they weren't getting it. Monday, same kind of thing. He doesn't know. He doesn't know why. They're just not. They're not getting it. They're not understanding it. They're not doing what they need to do to try to win games. Oh, I'm sorry. I did my math wrong. I just realized I was looking at Virginia Tech missed 26 field goals on Monday. Pitt missed 25. So 25 and 25. No, 25 and 19. So it was actually 44 missed field goals. 3 offensive rebounds. Sorry, I just happened to realize I looked at the wrong number. Because Pitt only made 15 baskets at Virginia Tech on Monday. They were never going to be a good offensive team. But they could have been an efficient offensive team. They could have been an offensive team that takes care of the basketball, that passes well and runs good sets to get open shots, high percentage shots, and run offense with a high efficiency. There seems to be no intention of doing that. And then they're not playing on the defensive end. And I do this for football and basketball, any sport I'm watching, that when a team sinks into a losing streak, it's easy to sort of get caught into the tunnel vision of that losing streak, excuse me, and think they're never going to win again. Because that's how it feels. It feels like they're not going to be able to win another game. There were posts like that after the Western Michigan game this past season, the football game. And right now, with Pitt in the midst of a 4-game losing streak where they've looked downright bad in all 4 of these games, Boston College, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech twice. They lose to Boston College by 13. Lose to Wake by 16. Give up 91 points. Lose to Virginia Tech by 5 after giving up 49 in the first half, and then lose to Virginia Tech by 27. These 4 games with this 4-game losing streak, it feels like they won't win again. It feels like they will not win a single one of their remaining 7 ACC games. I don't believe that to be the case. I think they'll get a win or 2 out of these final 7, but I'm not picking them to win. I can't pick them to win. Not after the way they played in the last 4 games. Outside of that one half, outside of the second half on Saturday. I can't pick them to win after the way they've played. And I don't know if that means that I feel the situation is hopeless. But sometimes you think thoughts through in your head and try and think of what you want to say next. And I'm not really sure what else to say at this point. It's a really low point. All right, let's get into the chat. There's a lot of chat comments and questions jumping in here. We appreciate everybody who's throwing some comments and questions to us. We really appreciate the super chatters. Share a couple bucks with the podcast. We appreciate your support for sure. And Michael B was a super chatter before the show even started, so I appreciate him big time. Says, hi, Chris. I'm going to get right to the point. Jeff Capel needs to go. The program is a raging dumpster fire. You told me before the team really can't collapse, but that's exactly what they're doing again in February. John Hughley looks disinterested. They'll lose out. Yeah, see, there we go. Somebody's already predicting losing the remaining 7 ACC games plus the ACC tournament, I presume. Like the February collapse thing it's a matter of semantics to me. I just look at it and say, look, man, they were bad in January too. Jeff Capel over his 4 years so far has 3 wins in February and he has 11 wins in January. 11's more than 3 for sure. But not by much. Not enough that I'm really going to say, boy, they were playing really well in January and they just fell off a cliff in February. They weren't very good in January either. They weren't very good in January. They won games in December, but then once the conference schedule starts, they pretty much go in the tank. And that's what has happened. It's a collapse in the face of stiffer competition more than a collapse in February, but it doesn't matter. They've been struggling all season long. And John Hughley, it's been rough. It's been rough for Hughley the last 2 games. Wake Forest, what did he do against Wake? He's pretty good against Wake. 17 points and 12 rebounds in that loss. But, the game at home against Virginia Tech, he was 1 of 4 from the field with 4 turnovers. The game down there on Monday, Hughley comes off the bench, goes 1 of 4 from the floor and 5 turnovers. So you're talking about, 4 points and 9 turnovers, and how many rebounds? 3 plus 4. So 4.7 rebounds and 9 turnovers in these last 2 games. And it's just, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what's happening. He's getting double teamed, obviously, and he's not responding well to it. He's not passing well out of the double team. He doesn't seem to really know what to do. It doesn't help that the rest of the team just stands there and watches. Tell the second graders, third graders, I help out with second grade basketball team and I help out with the third grade basketball team. We tell them all the time, you got to move around. You got to go help him. If your guy gets trapped, you got to go back and give him an option. It's nice with the second graders and third graders. You can't defend in the backcourt, like across the half court line. You can't defend until they come up across the line. So we always tell our guys, and they don't call backcourt violations. So if our guy gets trapped, brings it across the half court line and gets trapped, you're not allowed to double, but still kind of do. And he gets trapped, even with one guy on him, we tell somebody else to come into the backcourt and, we'll just pass it back there where they can't defend and we'll try and bring it up again. Unfortunately, we can't do that. Pitt can't do that. And John Hughley's catching the ball down near the baseline anyway, so he couldn't even throw it into the backcourt to get a reset on the offense. Oh, no, Hughley's not. I feel like he responded better to double teams early in the season. I feel like he did well with double teams early in the season, but he hasn't lately. He has it certainly these last 2 games with 9 turnovers in these 2 games. And they're coming out of double teams where he just doesn't know where to go with the ball and he ends up throwing it away. And that happened a bunch of times. At home against Virginia Tech and down in Blacksburg on Monday. And I don't know, I'm not sure what's going on there. Jeff Capel brought him off the bench on Monday, I think to try and spark him a little bit, make a point. I don't know if the message really got through. Let's see. Joe New says, must be 1,000 AAU teams. Why can't Capel get one? Even one 3-star recruit. My thing with the 2022 recruiting, look, this program needs to get turned around. You know what I mean? They need to start winning games soon. And obviously no recruit you're going to get is going to help you with this season. But when you talk about what's going to help with 2022, with next season, the 2022-2023 season, the reality is you're not going to find a high schooler who's going to help you with that. You're not going to find a recruit in the 2022 recruiting class who's going to come in and help you there. I don't think they're going to find a guy at this point in the process who's going to be able to make an instant impact. You're going to get another like Nate Santos, a guy who looks like he's a decent player. He's got some potential to develop over a number of years. But just like Nate Santos didn't come in and carry the team right now, I don't think you're going to find a recruit in the 2022 recruiting class who's going to come in and, carry the team next year. And so, they're going into it looking like they've got, one, maybe a max of 3 scholarships they'll be able to use, depending on how many guys transfer. And just, there's always going to be transfers. And I think the focus for them is going to be on the transfer portal because they need a 4 is what they need. They need a power forward. They're going to need somebody next year to play power forward. Assuming they bring back Hughley and Odekale and Horton and Sabandi and Burton and all those guys who potentially can come back. Basically, everybody other than Mo Gee can come back. If most of those guys come back and you have 1 or 2 extra spots, maybe 3 max, I can see them doing 2 transfers and a late add from the 2022 recruiting class like a Nate Santos was. But when people talk about, the future of the program, I think this program needs to start winning games. And that's going to help with the recruiting if they can start winning some games. And I don't think there's anybody they're going to get in the 2022 recruiting class who's going to help them win games. Not in the immediate future. And so, I understand why Pitt fans are concerned about that, but I think you just have to look a little more short-term because this program needs short-term answers. And so, I think it's going to be transfer portal, maybe junior college, and then maybe one high school kid, but probably mostly transfers. We'll see who they're able to get out of that, out of that approach. Let's see. John Christovich says, why isn't Ethiel Horton starting? Ethiel Horton is a better player than Onibuchi Izukudo. Why isn't Horton starting? He's not really playing all that well, Let's see, what game did he return? So he came back in the Boston College game, right? Played 23 minutes, shot 4 of 12 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3. So that's pretty good, Came off the bench, played pretty well. Decent, got a lot of shots up. The next game, the Wake Forest game, he played 18 minutes. He made 1 basket, 1 out of 5, and no threes. The game against Virginia Tech at home, he came off the bench, played 20 minutes, went 0 of 3 from the field. And the game at Virginia Tech, he came off the bench, played 20 minutes, and went 1 of 4. He actually made a 3 in that game. So since he came back, he's made 4 threes, I think. Is that what I just said? 4 threes, and 3 of them were in the Boston College game, the first game back. Jeff Capel was asked, actually, after this Virginia Tech game on Monday, if he thought Ethiel Horton would start getting more minutes. And Capel was like, he's playing 20 minutes a game. He's playing. He's out there a lot. I don't know if there's, what more you're looking for, but I think if he plays better, on both ends of the court, again, the defense comes into it. I think Onibuchi Izukudo is a bit of a better defender. But if Horton plays better, improves on both ends of the court, then he'll get more playing time. But he's not there yet. General So's Chicken says, can any coach save Pitt basketball seriously? Yeah, this program is not... You're not going to... what's the word? Contract. You're not going to contract the program. All right, Pitt basketball is not going to go away. They'll keep slaving away and working away and trying to improve. Can any coach save that? Yeah, I think it's a challenging job. I don't think it's an easy job. There's not a great local recruiting base. And the thing about Pitt, and this was the situation that Jeff Capel walked into and that I think everyone hoped he would rescue the program from. The thing about Pitt is it was one thing when they were perennially ranked and making the NCAA tournament and getting number 1 seeds and occasionally popping up at number 1 and competing in the conference tournament and winning a few and making the Sweet 16 on the reg and all this stuff. They were nationally prominent. They were nationally relevant. But Pitt is not a blue blood program. And when you have 6 years like they've had, and even going back to Jamie Dixon's last season, last couple of seasons, right? They went the NIT in his next to last year and then had that awful Wisconsin game. I actually have the records right here. 47-43 in that Wisconsin game. Oh, that was the year of the Okinawa game. I forgot that was the same season. They played Gonzaga in Okinawa and it got canceled at halftime. Oh, man. Because the court had condensation. Do you remember that? Anyway, if you look at the program over the last 7-8 seasons, they're not having that level of success. And so it's they're not nationally relevant. They fall off the radar. And a program like Pitt has to stay on the national radar to be relevant. They have to achieve at a certain level to stay nationally relevant, or else they disappear off the consciousness. They're not a blue blood program that people are always going to think of. They won a lot in the 2000s, but they didn't win enough to establish themselves as one of the top 20 programs in the country or top 30 programs in the country. or top 40 programs in the country, particularly in perception, in terms of perception. They didn't win enough to do that. And so they've fallen, and it's, I think it's hard to rebuild in that way. And that's the job that Jeff Capel walked into. And I think there was a strong feeling, I know I had it, that he was a good fit for it because he knew the ACC, because he learned from Coach K. He spent 7 years as an assistant there. He had a head coaching experience and then went back and almost had like a second internship with Coach K at Duke for 7 years. And he could recruit and all these different things. And he knew how to build a program. He knew what a program needed to be built. And I think there's some truth that the program he walked into was even worse off than he expected. I think he expected it to be bad, but he didn't expect it to be as bad as it was. But it takes time, I think, for a program like Pitt to build back up and get to a point where it is nationally relevant, which then helps your recruiting and you have more success building your roster and ideally have more success winning games. But it's a tough job, but I don't think it's an impossible job. I don't know who the coach is for the job, but it's a tough one. I don't think there's any question. Another super chatter, Biz says, at one point does Capel share blame for what is happening and how it has driven fans away? I think he is willing to say that the program as a whole, coaches included, have a hand in the struggles, have a hand in the lack of success. I think he's willing to take blame for that, credit for the struggles. But it, I don't know. I feel like we, I see fans sometimes say like, well, the coach needs to take it on him. Why doesn't he step up and take accountability? But it's not like if a coach took accountability and said, that was on me. I did a bad job. I didn't have them properly prepared. It's not like fans would then say, oh, all right. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think you should have another year. I think only those words would be held against them too. So, there's no placating fans. The only way you placate fans is with wins. I think he absolutely is sharing blame. Biz says, I feel like the same anger that is driven at Pitt football at times is not driven at Pitt basketball. Well, another super chat from Biz, and we appreciate it, Biz. Thank you. No, I definitely think there's plenty of anger at Pitt basketball, and there always has been. The key difference between Pitt football and Pitt basketball is numbers. It's numbers. It's the core fan base for Pitt basketball that would, the fans who would feel anger about a situation, feel anger about the direction of the program, feel anger about the coach and the results and the team and all of those things. The size of that group of fans, it's smaller than the similar fans, for the football program. So there is more anger because football is bigger. Football is a bigger sport and has a bigger fan base. Football also plays 12 games once a week, one game per week. And so you end up with 6 days between games to kind of, stew in how angry you are about the loss, to ruminate on your emotions. Whereas basketball, you get another game in 3 days. You get another game in 4 days. You get another game in 2 days or something like that. Now, if they all keep being losses, then the anger builds up and builds up. But, Pitt has always... Pitt fans have always been hard on the basketball program. Yeah, I think, you can look at all the success that we all fondly look back on in the 2000s. And if you go back to that time, you find a lot of people who are saying, oh, they just stink. They can't get out of the Sweet 16. Another Sweet 16 collapse. What would you give for a Sweet 16 right now? What would you give for an NCAA appearance right now? To make an appearance in the NCAA tournament? I don't want to get too nostalgic and say, well, I didn't know how good you had it. But, really, I think people would much, rather have those results. Rather have those results than they did, than what they're getting right now. One more comment from Biz says, Jeff Capel was supposed to help alleviate the national problem. Yeah, I mean that's the reality. Yeah, I mean Jeff Capel was supposed to do that. He was, Jeff Capel was supposed to help bring the program back to prominence. And look, the Jeff Capel hire got a lot of positive vibes. Positive reaction nationally when it was made. A lot of people believed it was a great hire, and I think a lot of national people praised Pitt for making that move, for being able to get Jeff Capel, for being able to get Mike Krzyzewski's top assistant away from Duke. And so it worked initially, and then it didn't. Let's see here. John Kristovich says, why didn't John Hughley start against Virginia Tech last night? I mean, he played really poorly on Saturday. And I think they wanted to mix it up, send a little bit of a message, hopefully get a wake-up call, and I don't really think it worked. I'm definitely not giving up on John Hughley. I think John Hughley is an important part of this team. I think he's an important part of this program. I think they are counting on him and needing him for the next 2 years, but he's not playing well right now. Not playing well. Let's see here. Josh Newark says, I have no problem with Heather Lyke's comments supporting Jeff Capel this week. That's what she should do. That said, do you truly believe Capel's job is safe and certain for next year, even if they lose out? All right, so Heather Lyke spoke to the media on Monday to talk about the women's lacrosse program, which will begin its inaugural season on Friday against Duquesne. But because Heather Lyke was speaking to the media for the first time since the summer, there were plenty of questions about basketball and Pat Narduzzi's contract and all those kinds of things. And Heather Lyke said something to the effect of, obviously the Virginia Tech game was pretty bad on Saturday, but the players are bought in. They're really responding to Coach Capel. They're doing their best. It was basically a show of support. But then she had a line about talent levels not where it needs to be. I'm not sure if that needed to be in there. I'm not sure if that was necessary to, let's call it what it is, take a shot at the roster. And I mean, it's an indirect shot at Jeff Capel and the coaching staff for assembling the talent that they've assembled, but it was a shot at the roster. And I don't think that's, I mean, I guess if you are the athletic director, the director of athletics, as it were, and you say in the public, you say in the press that the talent level is not where it needs to be. I mean, I'd like to think that you are a regular presence around all of the athletic programs. You know what I mean? That the players are used to seeing you around, either at practices or here or there, functions, wherever it is, for all the sports, men's, women's basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, volleyball, football, lacrosse, track and field, everything, gymnastics, swimming, all this stuff. All of those athletes, student athletes, should feel like they're familiar with Heather Lyke. She might not know all their names, but they should all feel like they're familiar with her. She should be a presence for them, and she should be seen by them a lot. And I'm just curious, I don't know, so you've just said in public, you've said to the media that the talent level is not good enough. How do you face the players? You know what I mean? You're the director of athletics. You're the one there to support the program and support the student athletes and the experience of the student athletes and the comprehensive excellence. And you just said they're not good enough. True or not, it's not really a question of truth. Truth is not really the significant factor here. I just don't know how you face them after that. How do you step in front of the student athletes and not just sort of imagine that they're all looking at you thinking you don't think we're good enough? So I don't know. I probably would have left that out if I was Heather Lyke. As far as, do I truly believe Jeff Capel's job is safe and certain for next year, even if they lose out? I don't think anything's guaranteed. I'm probably less confident now than I was a few weeks ago about Capel coming back. I still, you put a gun to my head ask me who I think will be Pitt's, head coach next season, Jeff Capel or the field, I'm going to say Jeff Capel. I think a significant factor is the significant buyout. I mean, Pitt needs a certain amount of cash to get rid of Jeff Capel. It's just the reality of it. You know what I mean? It's just the reality of it. They need a certain amount of cash. And I don't know that they have those cash reserves on hand to buy him out. And so, you'd like to think that any big-time university will make the move regardless of money and all that stuff. Well, that's fine. That's a nice story, but there's a reality. And the reality is you have X amount of money. And I'm not sure that X for Pitt is big enough to get rid of Jeff Capel right now. But that's just my thought. Let's see. Scrolling up here. Josh Newark says, regarding basketball, I no longer look forward to watching the games. It feels like a chore, contractual obligation, rather than something I enjoy. I hear you, Josh. It's tough right now. It's tough to watch this team play. There are individual players that I think can be fun to watch. I think Mo Gee is, I almost said exciting. He's pretty interesting to watch. When he gets the ball, you just never really know what's going to happen. Femi Odekale has been playing well lately. Jamarius Burton hit a rut against Virginia Tech down there, but I think overall he's been pretty good. Hughley, when he's got it going, has been good. He just hasn't had it going lately. I look forward to that. It's interesting to see, but if they continue to play such poor defense and they continue to just not execute any kind of, any semblance of offense, it's hard to watch. It is hard to watch. I agree about that. So we had a super chatter jump in. Joe News says, might Brandon Knight be the answer? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe he is. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know who is I don't know who is the answer. You know what I mean? We talked about that earlier of like who could save the program or something like that. I don't know. You know what I mean? I think there are a lot of things that you have to recruit certain types of players, and you have to be able to coach those players, and you have to keep some semblance of a team together, and you have to be able to work the transfer portal to fill in the things that your gaps that you're going to have every season. You're going to have to be able to work the transfer portal to fill in those gaps, and you have to get guys to play good defense. Until you get really good shooters, you're going to have to get guys to play defense. And I don't know who can do that. Let's scroll through here. Just got a few more minutes. Let's see. A lot of comments and questions. Everybody's upset. You know what I mean? Everybody is, just looking through the comments. I feel like there's a conversation taking place in the comments in the chat here, and so I'll just let you guys continue to conversate amongst yourselves. It's, the situation is just what it is now. And we're doing this podcast in the wake of, 24 hours since a loss, 48, 72 hours since the last loss, with 2 losses right before that were all 4 games were really bad games. And it's hard to look at those games and not feel like, where's the progress? Where are the steps forward? Where's this program now compared to where it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago? And that's not entirely a fair comparison because of roster turnover and just kind of what's happened, with the team. And this year was something of a start over year. But there was a feeling, I think the coaches felt like they might be able to start over and actually make some progress. And I don't see this roster making progress. I don't see this roster getting better. Femi Odikale has improved as of late. Onibuchi Izukudo's responded okay to the extra minutes he's been getting. Mogi and Jamarius Burton were nice additions through the transfer portal. John Hughley got a great start to the season. He's kind of struggled in the last few games. Last two, I guess. But where's the overall progress? Where's this team getting better? Because I actually see them getting worse defensively and worse rebounding. Where are they getting better? Their offense isn't getting better. It's not necessarily getting worse. It just was always pretty bad. It's just hard to find the signs of progress, both in the short term of a season and in the long term of the program as a whole. And that, I think, is probably what's most depressing for Pitt fans right now. It's not just, only having 8 wins. It's not just only winning 3 games in the ACC. It's not. It's about, struggling to find things to believe in, I guess. I feel like we're about to start singing Poison right now. So, not the Belle Biv DeVoe song, the Poison song. Give me something to believe in. We're not going to do that, though. We don't need singing on this. We do the Panther-Lair After Dark podcast. It's for premium members only, and it's on the dark web or something. And we sing Poison songs on that thing. So, we'll see what happens. Pitt plays at Florida State tomorrow night. And then they have on Saturday. Drawing a blank already because so much excitement. Get the schedule here. Oh, NC State. We already talked about that. Yeah, so they have Florida State Wednesday night. They have NC State on Saturday. And then at Carolina, home against Georgia Tech, Miami, Duke, and then at Notre Dame to finish things out. So there are teams in there that are not that great. There are teams in there that could be potential opportunities for Pitt to win. It's hard to count on them to do any of that right now. It's hard to. But whatever happens, we'll be writing about it at Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. It's the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, recruiting. You can find it all at Panther-Lair.com. And of course, message boards where you can interact with hundreds and thousands of your closest Pitt fan friends. Panther-Lair.com. Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Make sure you go to homefieldapparel.com. Get some sweet Pitt shirts, sweet designs, sweet logos, super high quality material. It's a t-shirt, doesn't lose its shape, super soft. It's one of the best shirts I own. I mean, the home field t-shirts and sweatshirt I have, they're among the best t-shirts and sweatshirt I own. So you can't go wrong with that. Go to Home Field Apparel. If it's your first time shopping there, your first order, use the promo code LAIR, L-A-I-R. You'll get 15% off your order. Thanks, everybody who tuned in to the live stream tonight. All the comments and questions, the super chatters, big time shout out to you guys. We appreciate it. And, thanks to everybody who listens to the podcast through the week. We appreciate it. Make sure we are... We got the Panthers Insider Show on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on 93.7 The Fan. You can tune into that for more Pitt sports talk. We'll have plenty of basketball talk there. Probably getting into some football and recruiting stuff as well. So tune into the Panthers Insider Show Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And, we'll be back next week. Wait, is there a... I was just looking at the schedule. Today's the 8th... 9th, 16th. Yeah, so they play at Carolina next Wednesday. That's an 8 o'clock game. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a post-game show that night after the Carolina game. What do you think? That might be fun. All right. Maybe we'll do that. So, but next week we'll have another Panther-Lair show. Might be a post-game show after the Carolina game, just for something to mix it up. But we'll keep you posted. Stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter at Panther-Lair, and of course check the website Panther-Lair.com. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you next week.